Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Long. I am the program manager for the free tax prep program with the United Way of Greater Cincinnati. Today, I'm going to be presenting an informational session pre-recorded for those individuals who are interested in learning a lot more about the free tax prep program. If you're unsure, you're thinking about wanting to volunteer with this initiative, I would like to be able to provide you some information, walk you through the process of how to further engage, and generally just lay out what it is that we do with it when it comes to free tax prep. So we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by sharing out my screen so that way everyone can see the slideshow and what we'll be covering. So throughout this session, we're going to be talking about a few things, and our objectives will be as follows. I'd like to take a little bit of time to introduce the United Way of Greater Cincinnati and what it is that we do here, along with deliver a lot of background information regarding the free tax prep initiative. Throughout this presentation, when talking about the free tax prep initiative, I'll be introducing some of our partners and the locations from which we provide services. Primary thing will be to introduce the volunteer roles, the types of volunteer roles that are available, along with some of the processes required to actually engage as a volunteer. Kind of lay out a little bit of some of our different service delivery formats. It's more than just one simple format for how we deliver our services. Definitely provide some next steps and information regarding training, because there is some training that goes into this depending on the type of role that you're seeking as a free tax prep volunteer. So first and foremost, a little bit about the United Way of Greater Cincinnati. And I encourage all volunteers to visit our main site at www.uwgc.org to learn a lot more about all the different programs and initiatives through the United Way of Greater Cincinnati. But we believe that all families in our region deserve economic well-being. So the United Way of Greater Cincinnati is seeking to build solutions that help people thrive. Our agency works closely with communities to identify patterns and uncover the greatest need. Through this, we hope to change systems so that fewer people need relief in the future. And while I'll be talking largely about free tax prep throughout today, there's so many different things provided and offered through the United Way, just a few to mention. That we're very proud of. One of our initiatives, Black Empowerment Works, which is an equity-focused grant program promoting Black self-determination, social mobility, and economic prosperity by resourcing and funding grassroots-generated Black-led ideas, programs, and projects. We also have our 211 and care coordination teams, which help connect individuals in our communities to resources, to be able to, as we say here, to be able to attach to that economic well-being and then be able to start to find those patterns, so that way we can work with entities further to be able to determine how we can change systems. Then we have Project Lift, which is a public-private partnership that helps families remove barriers to securing sustainable income and achieving financial stability. We work with sponsor agencies that families know and trust in the communities to provide a flexible, tailored, family-driven approach to their path to financial stability. This program offers critical short-term assistance and support, coaching, workforce development, and other resources, and applies learnings from each family's experience to systemic solutions that support long-term success for all families. So again, we're seeking to change systems so that way fewer people need relief in the future. And when it comes to free tax prep, through the volunteers that we work with, because this is a volunteer-driven program, we help people in our communities access free tax preparation. Many individuals, upwards to 70% in our communities, actually qualify for free tax prep programs, but don't always know that. And so we want to ensure that those who qualify for these services, who qualify for other types of tax benefits or tax credits, from the earned income tax credit to the child tax credit, get the refunds that they deserve and avoid the costs that are often associated with other tax preparation services. Even really good services that are out there, there is still always a cost range, depending on locality, anywhere from $250 to $350 when we include a state tax return. So We're trying to connect people to these services to save, put those dollars back in their pockets. So who are we? When it comes to free tax prep, if you've heard of us in the past, or if you've come across free tax prep when doing any sort of search, whether it be a local search or a national search, there are oftentimes other words and terms that get us affiliated with what we do in free tax prep through the United Way of Greater Cincinnati. This program was formerly named, or we had websites that were referred to through a program called Make Work Pay. It's still the same service, still tax services, but the Make Work Pay program was really just another iteration of free tax prep. Make Work Pay is closely tied to the acronym EITC, that third bullet point, which I've already referenced previously. It's the Earned Income Tax Credit. So EITC is not the name of the program, but rather the name of a credit. And EITC, because of its eligibility requirements, namely having an income, became closely tied to the program name Make Work Pay. For a number of years, this program, which has been in existence since 2005, went under the name of the Free Tax Prep Collaborative, which included a number of different entities, including AARP, Ohio Benefit Banks, and many other partners. While we still function as a collaborative or a coalition, if you will, we really do not go by that moniker anymore as the Free Tax Prep Collaborative, though we still work closely with a number of different organizations and partners, including AARP and their tax program referred to as Tax Aid. And finally, we have, or I shouldn't say finally, but there's another name that often gets affiliated with the Free Tax Prep program, and that is My Free Taxes. My Free Taxes is rather a format or a service delivery that comes from the United Way worldwide. It is a completely online service. It's a great feature, accessible to most individuals, but it is sometimes then affiliated with what we do. But myfreetaxes.com is really just the name of one of our service provisions, not necessarily the name of the program. And then finally, most appropriately, I think, for our program name is Vita, or the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. If you put this in a search engine, this is something that you will find most frequently affiliated with all tax preparation programs. Vita is a reference specifically to the program that is led by the Internal Revenue Services and ultimately funded through the Department of Treasury. The Vita program is kind of a two-arm program, and its other program is called TCE, or Tax Counseling for the Elderly. These programs were actually established in 1969, so these have been around for many decades, getting close to over 50 years, it would look like. And really what we're talking about when we're talking about Vita is the name of the grant that comes down through the Department of Treasury to the IRS and then to programs that offer tax services. These programs are throughout the country. This past year, which the funding cycle for Vita begins in October, what we've heard from the IRS is that there's been 297 grantees that have been awarded Vita funds in the amount of $25 million to serve taxpayers throughout the country. That's quite a large number, and that's a lot of resources to be able to help individuals get connected to services and file their taxes for free. As we indicated previously, one of the things that we're also affiliated with is the Earned Income Tax Credit. It's something that we often use as part of our outreach and strategic marketing to be able to connect individuals to why it's so important, or to provide some education or information as to why it's so vital to file taxes. Is that there are a lot of things that credits, I should say, that individuals may not be aware of. And through filing taxes can gain access to these credits, which can really help offset either any sort of amounts that may be owed by taxpayers, but more specifically, things that may actually increase the refund. Two of the ones that we've already been talking about today are EITC or EIC, the Earned Income Tax Credit or Earned Income Credit, and CTC, or the Child Tax Credit. For anyone following the news, the CTC has been in the news pretty much through the entire year of 2021, as there were new eligibility requirements and new stipulations or criteria to the child tax credit that went into effect this year. And what we know is that those changes have been so beneficial to individuals with children, to families who have dependents. We're putting thousands of dollars back into individuals' hands, low and middle income individuals' hands and families' hands that really need some of these funds to be able to continue to survive and continue to remain sheltered, to be able to put food on the table. So what I have here is a quote from the Center for American Progress, taken in conjunction with the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities regarding CTC and EITC, just talking about the impact that it has had. And we know that it's been lifting children out of poverty for many years. And what we believe is that with an expanded credit, that we're going to be able to provide resources to an additional 27 million children, specifically Black and Latino children who were previously shut out of the full benefits of CTC due to the program's design or its criteria. And so they're able to access greater credits and be able to weather this pandemic much better. So this is just an example of one of the things that is affiliated with the free tax prep program. It's one of the pieces and one of the things that we try and some of the pieces of education and information we try and share out with individuals. This is just another quote as it relates to the EITC. It's garnered bipartisanship support. EITC has been around since the I believe it's been around since the 1970s, while the child tax credit program came into effect in the late 90s. But both these programs have had dramatic impacts on reducing poverty and positive effects on the outcomes of low and moderate income families and children. So I had mentioned My Free Taxes. This is just one of the programs again offered. It's a service, or rather a service format for being able to file one's taxes. It's free, it's available online, it's very well designed for mobile delivery. There are IRS certified specialists who are able to assist individuals who are filing online for free. And more importantly, it also has a checklist connecting filers to other financial products and services. Those of us who have been doing tax preparation for a number of years understand the impact of the refund, what a refund can have on a family. We also know that one of the things that really can have long-term impacts is also encouraging our filers to begin connecting to savings programs. The research has shown that's not very effective when actually rendering tax preparation services, but takes a degree of time and some forethought and being able to introduce ideas about savings and budgeting and things of this nature very early on. And it's part of a continuous process to be able to build financial literacy. So when we really talk about free tax prep as the program today, what we're really talking about is some of our partners and some of the ways that we deliver services. So as I said before, we're still very much connected to the AARP tax aid program operating out of Southwest Ohio. We are a Vita grant recipient doing traditional services. And again, we work very closely with the IRS, not only as a funding entity, but the IRS and its local offices provides tax services as part of our program in closed spaces for designated taxpayers. And then we work with a number of other entities, obviously My Free Taxes online, as well as then a new tool that we utilize in conjunction with Code for America called Get Your Refund. This was a tool that was really introduced as a result of COVID-19, though I think it was already in the making. But it is a way for taxpayers to be able to file their taxes securely in a remote space with Get Your Refund functioning as sort of a tool that enables communication between preparer and filer in a remote setting through text messaging, emails, and also phone calls, and then allows for a series of checks and balances when it comes to being able to ensure all the data is uploaded from a tax filer into the system for the preparer to review, ask questions, and then move into the tax preparation software site, and then ultimately file the taxes for the filer. We partner with a number of different agencies. Even this slide does not do justice to the numerous entities with whom we work. We have been working with some of these entities here for a number of years. while others are newer to our partnership and ultimately our initiative in trying to reach as many taxpayers as we possibly can. One of the newer partners for us is the Cincinnati Public Library, where we are introducing more tools in terms of My Free Taxes, as well as FSA, also known as Facilitated Self-Assistance, which is kind of a go between traditional tax services in person with a tax filer right there versus completely online. It's kind of a middle ground where you work with a coach. But the Cincinnati Public Library is one of our newest partners, but we partner with entities from whether it be, social service agencies such as the Brighton Center, the Center for Great Neighborhoods, the Healing Center, other entities that are focused on job building, connecting to resources like the Ohio Means Job Centers in these two counties, both Hamilton and Butler County, educational institutions such as Xavier University and UC, NKU, and then even some of the local churches or local groups that we connect with, from Northminster Church, the Healing Center, which is affiliated with the Vineyard, and the Care Center, which is affiliated with church in Loveland, North Star. So when we talk about where our footprint currently, where our current footprint resides, we do have the majority of our sites operating out of Hamilton County, with then a few locations in Claremont, one location in Butler County. We do not have any locations in Brown, though we serve a number of individuals from Brown County. We serve counties all over northern Kentucky, particularly those in the northern region with Boone, Campbell, Grant, and Kenton, but then some of the other ones, including Pendleton counties and Gallatin counties. And then we do operate out of southeastern Indiana, primarily Dearborn, though we do have some individuals operating from Ohio counties. And while we're always looking to expand our footprint as well to new site locations. So we're always looking for more volunteers who are willing to take on leadership roles, become what we will find out, site coordinators, to be able to deliver services. A little bit about our numbers. Our numbers have changed over the course of time. COVID-19 had a major impact on our results, as can be demonstrated, just like almost every entity across the nation was impacted by COVID-19, and our numbers actually remain on par with most of the national averages here. But you can see that traditionally we've had somewhere in the 400 range of volunteers, usually serving anywhere between 7, but more likely 8,000 to 10,000 individuals on an annual basis for tax filing, with usually rendering refund dollars in the amounts of 11 to 14 million. And that is just the refund amount. That doesn't include the amount that we calculate for money saved through preparation as well. But that would be a simple equation of usually the dollar value approximately 300 by the number of individuals that have filed taxes with us. So this is substantial dollars going back into our region, substantial dollars going back into the hands of families who really need it, the low and moderate income families that can really benefit by having these dollars back in their hands. This page also provides a breakdown of some of our more specific populations, i.e. the number of individuals or families who filed EIC or EITC returns, as well as CTC returns, and then the dollar values affiliated with them. So again, you can see the number of families who have benefited from these additional dollars that are in existence. And as I said, we're on par, even with the decreased numbers in 2021, you can see that general decrease. We were on par with many other Vita programs or tax programs throughout the country. For instance, our United Way Worldwide reported back to us that when it comes, for instance, to the EITC averages across the nation, the average percentage of filers receiving that EITC was 20%. We had 21.5, with an average amount of $1,400 per filer, and our average was $1,465. So we are right on par with everyone else. The average refund for almost every filer across the nation through Vita was about $1,700. Our average was about $1,600. So we're a little bit lower, but pretty much on par with everyone else. So now we're going to kind of turn to a new objective here. So we've really introduced, what free tax prep is, the names affiliated with us, a little bit about the individuals we serve, the importance of what it is that we do. So kind of going to pivot, as well as our partners and site locations, pivot and talk a little bit about more why you are here, and that is, your desire to participate in this program. So what does it actually take to be a great volunteer? Well, I was going to say the thing that I think most people become deterred by when it comes to taxes is just the general trepidation or fear when it comes to taxes. I know that when I was younger, I definitely had a lot of hesitation and reluctance to try and take on my own taxes. I think I successfully filed them as a younger individual, but it's definitely daunting. But the good news is that most of our tax software does most of the work for us, and we have a strong retention rate of volunteers. We have a number of volunteers that have been doing this for years and years. In this photograph in the center, you'll see Keith Garing, one of our site coordinators who's been doing this work for countless years and running a site out of Ohio Means Jobs Butler with a team that's all been in place for many years. So really, we have a very supportive team. We have a very supportive set of volunteers that are working throughout sites in the region. Really, what we're asking for when it comes to volunteers is, number one, we're doing a lot of hands-on work with individuals. So we have to be most definitely conscientious about our customer service. We want to be personal, friendly with individuals, and we have to be comfortable working with a diverse group of filers. We have individuals coming from all walks of life, from the rural regions of Brown and Claremont County and Kentucky, as well as Southeast Indiana, to the urban core of greater Cincinnati. So we're working with a multitude of individuals through this initiative. Because taxes are so, there are a lot of elements to taxes, that it's important that we have individuals who are also inquisitive and willing to follow high standards of ethics. We're working with people's very sensitive information, their incomes, their social security numbers. So one of the things that every preparer, or every volunteer, I should say, will have to do is complete a volunteer ethics exam. It's pretty straightforward, but nonetheless, you do have in your possession, or will see on occasion, some very sensitive information, and being conscientious about that. But then more importantly, along with that is then just the fact about, when we talk about taxes, we're going to have to learn some things. For instance, in this upcoming year, we're going to have to ask some questions about the third stimulus and whether or not individuals received it. Some individuals may have, they may have not. They may have received letters from the IRS stating they did, they may not. So there are going to be questions that we're always going to have to ask when we work with tax filers, or those who wish to file their taxes. We've got to be able to learn more about their tax situation so we can provide the utmost or the most precise services possible, and make sure that we get all the details to render the best tax return we possibly can. So there are a myriad of volunteer opportunities that exist. Many people sign up ultimately to be a tax preparer and a quality reviewer. Preparer, obviously, for getting the tax return ready, with a quality reviewer being something that goes hand in hand with tax preparation. We have sort of a buddy or a peer system, if you will, where we make sure that we cross-check our work on a consistent basis. It's one of the requirements by the IRS, for that matter. So when you prepare a tax return, there will be someone that will receive that tax return to provide a quality review. It's just to ensure that the quality of our work is up to the standards of the IRS. We then have some individuals who can do a lot of other work that is not necessarily strictly geared to tax preparation. For instance, we do have the need for interpreters and translators, as well as general support personnel. There's many sites that function with a few tax preparers, but what they don't have is someone to help out with, making sure computers are up and running, or printing off documents, or making phone calls for appointments, or doing check-ins, or anything like that. That's a perfect example of someone who still requires a little bit of certification, namely ethics and things like that, but not nearly the level of certification as a preparer would need. Then you have one of the most important jobs out there, and that is the greeter and screener. These are actually two roles, but oftentimes function simultaneously. The greeter really is that conduit between the preparer and the filer. They introduce the person to the site, make them feel welcome, and most importantly, make sure that they can kind of provide the lay of the land, if you will, for what's going to happen for the day. Screener takes a little bit of a deeper dive into that same function. Screener will actually start the process of providing the filer with forms that need to be completed, so that way when the preparer works with the filer, they have all the information or know that all the information is present for that preparer to conduct a full tax return. So a screener does a lot of that question and answer, making sure all documents are present, all W-2s are there, all 1099s are there, any sort of banking information is available. Many site coordinators, those who run sites, actually ask that their greeters function as screeners as well. So while it is considered two separate roles, we really encourage everyone who wishes to be a greeter to also be able to function as a screener, which requires a level of certification called interviewing quality review, and we will see some of those things here momentarily. And then at different levels, we do have individuals like site coordinators who really, this can kind of take on a dual role. You can function as a site coordinator if you're able to kind of have strong organizational skills, put together a team of volunteers that would be able to provide tax preparation. But we also believe that site coordinators need to have a degree of expertise when it comes to taxes as well. So usually in our current models for service delivery, we usually have two types of sites. We have a site where a coordinator can do both things, where the individual manages the day-to-day operations of the tax service and can then render tax expertise for the team she or he supports. For instance, in this image here, you see Monica Ibarra, one of our site coordinators out of Center for Great Neighborhoods, who functions in both of those roles. She is a tax expert, a lawyer, who also runs a low-income tax clinic, but she also manages the day-to-day operations, coordinates with her volunteers, puts together the schedule, sets up appointments for individuals. So she runs the entire operations out of the Center for Great Neighborhoods with her collaborative partner, Mary Lepper. We then have some other sites that function similarly, but with a little bit of with a two-person dynamic. Usually one person functioning as the tax expert and then one person functioning as the logistical expert. So usually in those types of situations, you kind of have a co-site coordinator, two site coordinators, one with one specialty, one with the other specialty, who then really can function very well together and then be able to provide the full range of services. When it comes to our overall timeline for volunteers, we usually commence our tax preparation training and information sessions as we're right now in the month of November, with actual tax preparation commencing in December and running through January. Reason for that is most of the time we don't get any of the updates from the IRS or the access to the certification portal until late November. And so we don't usually start the training until December. The tax season usually runs from January to April. I believe this year our technical year is actually April 18th due to an adjustment that the IRS has not put down on paper, but I just read. So we will be operating for approximately 3.5 months. And then, and when I say January, I usually mean late January. Some of our sites don't even get started till the first or second week of February. Then many of our, this has come from all of our site coordinators, really to maximize the time and effort that individuals put into the training. We really want to make sure that most of our volunteers are coming in for a minimum of about 12 hours of volunteer services. So we usually break that down to about 3-4 hour shifts. Again, our sites operate at all different times and throughout the week. We have some sites that operate on weekdays in the evening. We have one or two sites that operate during weekdays during the day as well. And then we have a number of different sites that then also operate on Saturdays for a number of hours. Both Center for Great Neighborhoods and Ohio Means Jobs in Butler are examples of that, as well as the Care Center in Loveland. Talking a little bit about the certification. Certifications, this is not something that is actually managed by the United Way, but rather through the IRS and through an IRS platform called Link and Learn. And we'll talk about that a little bit more further. But certification is done on an annual basis because tax law changes happen on an annual basis most years. These tax certifications are really focused on federal returns, not so much state returns. We do cover that in our own training, Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky state returns, but the certifications are really on the federal or through the IRS are focused on the federal level. And there are, when you complete these trainings for professionals who are still in the fields, there are CEs that are still available. As I had mentioned, there is a strict code of ethics. Everyone who volunteers must complete the ethics training, and that we do have a very rigorous process for ensuring the quality of our reviews and the quality of our services through something called a quality review. Most of the time, our site coordinators, this is not a rule, but rather a practice that most of the time those who are new will often be buddied up or will shadow a more experienced volunteer to really ensure the knowledge base is there to deliver, the most accurate tax preparation services. And coordinators are always available. They're there to help walk through the process, to answer questions. Many of our site coordinator volunteers have been doing this for years and absolutely love the work. And that's why they're back year after year. And just to make sure that everyone who is maybe thinking, well, what sort of, do I stand any risk by doing this? Because we're talking about people's money, people's refunds. What if something, what if there's something that goes wrong? Ultimately, while we have a process established through the IRS to ensure the utmost quality, we do know that mistakes are made from time to time. It happens. It's pretty common that on an annual basis, a number of amended returns will be filed, sometimes through possible error made by the preparer. More often, sometimes that a piece of information was not provided by a filer that is later located, and then we have to make an amended return. But all volunteers should know that we do have a protection from liability. You can see that down here in the lower right hand corner, and these things are stated. And ultimately, at the end of the service that we render, we still need approval from the taxpayer. We review the forms with taxpayers thoroughly. We make sure we gain consent, and the tax filer still has to give the okay. So ultimately, they, by giving their okay, are saying, yes, this is good to go, which is what protects us from liability in the long run. As we move into the 2020 tax season, 2022 calendar year for the tax season, filing 2021 taxes, we predict that we'll be delivering services in 4 primary methods. This is the same thing that we did last year, so I imagine that we're going to be doing it again this year as COVID is still around. First, kind of on the ends, in the green, we see the in-person service. This is how most services were rendered for years and years through the free tax prep program. An individual comes in, meets with a greeter or screener. They do their initial paperwork, ensure all the documents are in order. They are then coordinated to meet with a tax preparer, as seen here. And that tax preparer and filer then sit there, usually together in a communal space or across from one another, and actually then file the taxes. And then the filer then gives the approval, and then the e-file is made through our tax slayer software. With the introduction of COVID, doing in-person services largely came to a halt after March of 2020. So there were a number of sites that adopted virtual only. It occurs in a similar fashion in which that there is kind of documents need to make sure that they are uploaded and completed, but in a virtual only setting, this is where we employ the platform Get Your Refund through our partner Code for America. Tax filers can upload all of their documents, their W-2s, the forms required, the 1099s, photo identification, all to a platform, Get Your Refund, where it will then go to a tax preparer to then begin reviewing and then begin the process of filing the taxes. Communication and questions then occurs through Get Your Refunds platform, either through phone calls, text messages, or emails. Once the preparation is completed, through, again, Get Your Refund, consent and approval forms are then sent back and forth between filer and preparer. And once all those things are signed off upon, the preparer can then file the taxes in the virtual space. Between these two, we have two models that are a little bit of a combination of both of these things. First, in yellow, the drop-off in person. This is something that's going to be employed quite frequently by a number of sites this season. This will be still physical interactions. Taxpayers will come like an in-person service and meet with an individual, a screener, to ensure all of their tax materials are available so returns can be completed in their entirety. The difference here in this drop-off in-person model is that then the taxpayer will either do one of two things. They either will leave the site to come back either at a later pre-designated appointment time, say like the following week, or they may be told to wait outside in their car, or maybe if the facility has a large enough space, they may be told to wait in a separate area. Like at the Healing Center, they have a rather large communal space that families can then wait while the tax preparers work in a separate space. Again, this is all in light of COVID-19 and creating separation and making sure that we're social distancing. So in this model, taxes are usually filed, by the preparer. Like when I say, again, physically, I mean usually on the site, same day, or usually on the site, just with then the filer coming back about a week later. The alternative to that is the drop-off hybrid model, which is kind of a combination of the drop-off and the virtual, where, again, a person will come in and meet with a screener face-to-face or in person to ensure all documents are completed and ready to go. But instead of, so again, this one, the filer is not actually uploading the documents to Get Your Refund. A person is making sure everything is in order. That individual or that greeter or screener then will take those documents and upload them to something like Get Your Refund, and then the preparation occurs in the virtual space, with the approval then also occurring in the virtual space. So really, at the end of the day, we're still talking about delivering tax services, but delivering them in different modes that most appropriately meet the taxpayers and their level of comfort, and then modes for volunteers to understand and then be able to assess and evaluate which model may be the best in which they can operate or volunteer this upcoming season. This screen really kind of gives a deeper dive into what would be anticipated with each of those modes. Obviously, you can see that when we move to virtual, there's a lot less that is done when it comes to greeters and screeners. Greeters and screeners are really necessary in the first three models, from in-person to even the drop-offs, because there is that in-person or direct interaction. Preparers, on the other hand, they have a very, very intense role, and it's face-to-face in the in-person service, whereas in the drop-off model, they're usually removed from tax filers, and then in these virtual models, they're usually working completely away from everyone and really working completely from TaxSlayer software, and then Get Your Refund to be able to communicate and to get all forms completed. Site coordinators function through all of these different formats of tax preparation services. So now we've made it to the end. We've gone through, again, general introduction to free tax prep in the United Way. We've covered some of our partners. We've covered some of the roles. We've introduced basic timelines and some of the expectations. So really then, what do we do from here? if you're really, we want to be able to connect to as many people as possible. So that's why we really need you as volunteers. So there is going to be a time commitment, depending on your volunteer role, to be able to connect with us and have your certification completed. So for those who are thinking about going on to become preparers, you definitely want to make sure that you start checking out things like our future emails. If you've been to our website and you've already signed up with your contact information, your desired role, then you are on our email journey. Most of you should be, and you'll start receiving emails which will contain information about our future tax preparation trainings. We encourage everyone to participate in our tax preparation trainings, even those who are doing supportive roles, even those who are translators or interpreters, even those who are greeters and screeners, because the more you know about this, the more you will be able to ensure that you can provide the best service possible to the tax filers who come to the site at which you volunteer. Towards the end of this month, we anticipate that the Link and Learn site will be fully updated for the 2021 tax returns, and you will be able to access it to begin completing your certification processes. Again, tax service does not begin until the end of January, beginning of February, so there is ample time for you to be able to get in and start learning the things that you need to learn. Attached to this Zoom call, or what you would have received if you can through some of the emails, are some of the forms that are required, or I should say not required, but rather the forms that would be important for you to begin reviewing as you then move on to your required certifications. For instance, you can access something called Form 496, which details all the standards of conduct and ethics to which all Vita volunteers must adhere. The volunteer standards of conduct exam is required for everyone. No matter your role, you're going to have to complete this. There's also Form 5101, and we should start to get used to some of the forms, because everything with the IRS forms is definitely always a 4 or 5 digit number or code, but 501 details the process for screening. This is, again, very important for those who are doing greeter, who wish to fill the greeter and screener role, which we are required to use another form, the 13614. That's the form that tax filers have to fill out before we can render services. But the Form 5101 details the entire process of how filers fill out that form, what you should be looking for as a greeter and screener in terms of documents that the tax filers should have brought to be able for the preparer to be able to render services. And we complete this training and certification to really ensure that we can make sure you get connected to sites where you will be most, where sites most in need. There are a number of sites, including Catholic Charities, that is seeking some filers. The American Red Cross is seeking some support and greeter positions. So we really want to make sure that you understand to start this training as soon as you possibly can, and that the resources are available for all those who wish to perform these services and be a free tax prep volunteer. Well, normally this would be the questions portion, but since this is a pre-recorded session, there are no questions. Really, what I want to say is I thank all of you for taking some time to listen to this presentation. I would love to open up, myself as in terms of availability. You can always send me an email. You can find the contact information through our website. We really want to encourage as many of you to come out and to provide these services and really connect our families to these resources, help them build this economic well-being that the United Way of Greater Cincinnati is working towards, and that we believe all individuals deserve. So I hope to see you this tax season, and I want to thank you very much for your time, and you have a great day. Bye.